Hustle culture is not dead, babe. It's just been repackaged on TikTok. I am so sick of people talking about hustle culture, but I have so much to say, and I think it might be a different perspective, at least from what I have seen online. Frankly, the only kind of hustle I want to talk about is that movie with Jennifer Lopez, because that's what I think my body looks like. Immediately after the panorama, you know, the big pandy that we had a couple of years ago, those unprecedented times, so many news publications were coming out and sharing that hustle culture is dead. Death to hustle culture. And I, at first, totally bought into it and was like, yes, this is what I want to see. Because I was so young in 2015, it's crazy, I can hardly remember it. I was very much victim of hustle culture in that peak YouTube, peak Tumblr era. My mood board in that time was diabolical. It was like, early bird gets the worm, I'll rest when I'm dead. I was so obsessed with working hard because to me, that's what success was. I think it's really interesting how little the pandemic and the impacts on work-life balance is kind of talked about, especially on social media. So I'll do like a very tiny recap. We were already overworked pre-pandemic. You know this, I know this, we both know this. And then the pandemic hits, we're either working from home or forced to work in person in unsafe environments. The lines between our work life and our personal life are so blurred. We all ended up working overtime. I can't remember what organization it was, but many studies came out saying that people tended to work like hours of additional free labor when they were working from home because it was so easy just to keep your computer on you while you were helping your kids with homework or while you were at the gym or while you were watching television. Why would I say at the gym? None of us could go to the gym. And very few of us were ever having our compensation adjusted to reflect the additional hours that we were putting in. That, coupled with the absolute madness that was the last few years, is what led us to the Great Resignation. This period of time where people basically said, enough is enough, I am no longer willing to work in these conditions for employers who don't give an SHIT about me, I'm gonna quit. And that's when we saw record levels of not only burnout, but people choosing to leave the workforce. And cue all of these articles coming in saying that hustle culture is dead, people are prioritizing their mental health. First hot take of this video, people were not prioritizing their mental health. This was a crisis response. People leaving their jobs in the pandemic wasn't because they were proactively thinking about their wellness. That was a direct response to already being so critically burnt out. In fact, Deloitte released a study a couple of months ago that said over 77% of people in the North American workforce felt burnt out. Like, that's a crazy statistic. This is also around the time where we really started to see a different kind of content being created and different platforms coming to a head. A few years ago, like 5 or 6 years ago, Instagram was that girl. Everybody wanted to be on Instagram. And then Instagram went through an identity crisis and is now trying to be what, like Facebook Marketplace meets TikTok meets YouTube. Instagram just totally changed their strategy and has been one of those platforms, at least that I've seen, people are not interacting with as much. Plus, what we thought of as like cool, popular YouTubers really had a shift over the pandemic. A lot of the creators that were perceived as like really edgy and cool, like the Logan Pauls of the world, all of these people who were spending so much money on videos, were super over the top and super extra, traveling, going to parties. They were partying in pandemics that turned people off. They were spending a lot of money when thousands, if not millions of people were financially struggling in ways we'd never seen before. Basically, the traditional influencer kind of became this tone-deaf figure we could no longer relate to. And I think the big thing that divides influencers from celebrities is that we're supposed to be able to relate to influencers. You're supposed to influence my life because we experience similar things. If I wanted to feel like shit about myself, I would just watch TMZ. Kinds of content you used to see and honestly still see on Instagram is very edited, heavily curated. It almost feels like a magazine spread. And looking at highlight reels in a time that is so tragic and painful honestly just was no longer relatable. But I don't think a lot of these articles claiming that hustle culture died took into account is TikTok. Where Instagram is your like fall, autumn mom in skinny jeans and a beret, TikTok was your cool cousin in a hoodie with no makeup, having a coffee, talking shit about this guy she just dated. What I think TikTok does fundamentally differently is that it's not prescriptive. People on TikTok aren't telling you how to make $100,000 with their morning routine. What they're saying is, here's my personal morning routine that I use and I make $100,000. So,
it's up to you. It's your call. No pressure, bestie.
People who are really good at TikTok don't make it feel like they're selling you concepts or ideas. They're just sharing their personal experiences, but those still influence you, and in my opinion, they're way more dangerous than some of the other methods we've previously seen. Those like whack-ass posters you would see on Pinterest for years, those were pretty overt. It was easy to understand what the message was and why someone was telling you that. Today, when you log into TikTok and see a 25-year-old making $200K a year with her 6 a.m. morning routine, you're gonna start and think that's the only way for you to be successful too. And it feels like it isn't a sales pitch, but it still is, which is the most dangerous and effective kind of sales. They're not telling us what to do anymore. They're showing us and making us think it's our own free will. And this is not to hate on creators. I literally have videos like this on my channel sharing my productivity routine because I genuinely want to help people feel productive. But when you start to peel back the layers of what these videos actually mean, it's kind of fucked up. Oh, and if TikTok tells me one more time that if I drink out of straws, I'm gonna get wrinkles, I'm gonna cause a physical altercation. The 2015 girl boss era is the 2023 it girl era. We have literally just rebranded the girl boss to give her a slick back bun and a morning routine instead of chuggy little Tumblr posts. Saying the exact same thing, except it's being done in a way that feels much less threatening and therefore is something we're much more susceptible to. I'm ready to talk about the myth that is the meritocracy. A meritocracy is the idea that when you work hard, you get ahead, and that you'll be rewarded in life based on how hard you work. For example, if two people are doing the same job and one person works hard and the other doesn't, the person who works hard is going to be rewarded. We live in a very racist, sexist, ableist, homophobic, all of the isms kind of a world. So fundamentally, a meritocracy cannot exist in a world where everybody is not on an even playing field. This whole mindset that if you wake up at 5 a.m. and drink your Bloom green juice, which by the way tastes like shit, and then write in your bullet journal and then work out and then start your work day, that you too are going to be very successful, make lots of money, and be internet famous is kind of bullshit. It's also super dangerous that none of this content has any mention of rest for the most part. People are only showing you the parts where they're working hard and when they're feeling productive and waking up early. I have like a half-baked thought, but I kind of think that this is related to the way people advertise, particularly on TikTok. I've seen so many people, even as early as this week with Michaela Noguera, I believe I might be mispronouncing her last name, but she's been working with Maybelline quite a bit. A lot of people joke that she's like locked in their basement. I do think it's funny. But Michaela has been working with Maybelline. They gave her this face powder to try, and she posted this video of half her face with that powder, half her face without. The difference looks crazy. Her skin looks gorgeous. It goes viral. She was paid to create that content. Like, that's kind of crazy. I also think the death of Morphe has something to do with this too, because they relied so heavily on influencer marketing, and now this direct form of influencer sales doesn't really feel authentic or genuine. So if I told you, use my code Emily15 for this iPad case, you probably wouldn't use it as much as if I made a video being like, oh, I love this iPad case. It's really changed my life. By the way, I have a discount code if you want it, but no big deal. So why does hustle culture still exist? Here are me and my iPad's thoughts. I would argue it goes all the way back to us being in like elementary school or primary school if you're in the UK. I'm in Canada, so elementary is what we would call like our very junior years. But I vividly remember being so bad at math class, and instead of people telling me that I could get a tutor or I could use these other resources, they always just told me to work harder. And guess what? My math grades never improved. I'm not trying to say that the message should always be that we need to give up when things are hard, but I do think it's interesting that we are always pushing for people to keep working as if that is what's going to help us be successful. Plus, if we take our rose-colored glasses off for just a second, corporate America tells us they reward hard work, but ultimately that's not what they reward at all. Of course, in the workforce, you can be rewarded for the quality of your work and what you've accomplished, but a lot of people get access to opportunities because of who they know and who mommy and daddy are. Cue my video on nepotism. But why? What is the purpose of this meritocracy being pushed so far down our throats that we throw up hustle culture? It's because people can make money off of it. Our school systems, our corporate offices, they're selling us this meritocracy myth so that we work harder, so that we go get our master's, that we go get our PhD, because more work means more reward, so that we do those extra hours at the office, basically so they can get our labor for free without having to pay us more for it. Also, so that we start consuming content and products that can help us feel like we're closing the gap. How many advertisements for Bloom Nutrition have you seen on TV? I bet you 0. How many times when you open TikTok do you see those stupid little green juices from Bloom all over your For You page? All of these products serve to help us feel more productive. But usually the reason we don't feel productive is because productivity has been defined by a system that fundamentally wants us to fail. Do I have a solution for this? Absolutely not. Am I probably still a participant in hustle culture? Yeah. I can't fix it by myself. I'm just one lady and an iPad. With a pen. I did get a pen for the iPad, and I do like it. Use my code Emily15. This was like beyond a ramble. I would just love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Do you feel like hustle culture is alive and well? Do you feel like hustle culture has died and I'm being dramatic? Is this something I have made up in my head? I don't know. I would just love to hear your perspective. If you like videos like this, a little bit more commentary style, also let me know in the comments. Do not forget to subscribe. I post some kick-ass content here on TikTok, on Instagram, and I have a careers podcast, so make sure that you are checking it out. And don't hustle too hard, baby. Don't